Serious, retired soldiers on Reddit, what was something that you saw or experienced that you never shared with anyone? My very first patient in Afghanistan was a 10-month girl. The father brought her to our gate asking for help. We checked her out and she is literally missing all of the skin from shoulder blade to waist on her back left side. Burned to the bone. Dad tells Terp that she tripped and got cut up by gravel. Clearly she is burned. I can smell it still today. I can remember the screech she made. The charred skin I had to remove. And that arsehole just sat in the corner. Nothing I can do to right the situation other than do what I can for her. That single moment definitely set the tempo for the following 9 months. One of my best buds got drunk and fell off the barracks. They labeled it an accident. It was actually a suicide over a girl. I know. Not too interesting. But I thought I'd share. Never told anyone. Always felt guilty. I served in the military here in Finland, as required by law, and there was this guy who chain smoked a lot and we called him Skorsten, Swedish for chimney. His father had killed his mom and then hung himself while Skorsten was young. Skorsten was always depressed but he got along and we were good friends. Then 5 years after we got out I get a message from an army friend who says that Skorsten had hung himself because his girlfriend had left him for another guy. I've accepted that there was nothing I could have done but it still haunts me. Sometimes when I go out for a smoke I still remember how he would ask me for a cigarette because he had misplaced his own. So I'll light a cigarette for him and place it on the side of the ashtray. That's my way to remember him. Edit. A big thanks to all who replied. You made my day. Hell. You made my week. Danish army medic here. The constant stream of molested children in Afghanistan. Usually burned with hot water. Or even worse, raped. I still have nightmares about pointing my weapon at little kids. I'm terrified to have kids because of it. Brother. This is what haunts me the most. I remember the fear in the eyes of a little girl who came around the corner into the line my 50 was pointed. And her mom coming around after her and they both froze and just stared at me in terror. I elevated the gun and waved them past and tried to smile to show them it was okay. But I remember that little girl's fear and I thought of my daughter feeling that way and it tore me up. Still does. Pointed my weapon at a lot of people but that girl stays with me. I know others have been through and done worse. And I saw worse myself but that girl stays with me. Joking answer. A ton of dicks. Seriously. Infantrymen are like little kids. Always running around butt naked. Serious answer. We were ordered to shoot bayonet any bodies we came across because the militia had a habit of playing possum only to kill coalition troops later. Well. In Iraqi summer heat. After a few days of laying there. The bodies will puff up. They get super bloated and just nasty overall. But you can't always tell. Especially if they're all covered up. Well. When you shoot bayonet kick a bloated body. They tend to pop. And out comes the nastiest smell and a disgusting liquid pus goo. Jesus. Nothing smells that bad. And the goo pus gets all over your boots. Or uniform. Or rifle. Or God help you. Your mouth. Much vomit was spewed forth. Many memories cemented forever. Edit. 9 times out of 10. It was easy to tell they were dead. After being hit with 105mm. 40mm. 25mm. Full stop. 50. 7. 62. 5. 56. Or 9mm rounds. There usually wasn't much left. What was left was also food for the fleet of feral dogs that followed us. So, if we came across an intact body, it was either alive and waiting, or had been passed over by the dogs. The feeling of not feeling anything after killing someone is crazy. It's not like you're stone cold. No emotion. But think of it as you're a waiter at a restaurant and you serve your customers, you don't think anything of it when it's happening. You just do and carry on. It doesn't hit you until later and you're like, mother efker, I just did that. The emotion of everything is so bland when it happens but so raw when you take a step back. Whenever you have a buddy that gets killed, yeah, it's scary, but it doesn't hit you until later. Every moment in that person's life had led up to that moment. It's concluded. Over. Done. Every first kiss. Every Friday night football game. Every person they ever had any contact or relationship with. Everything they ever said. Every plan they ever had or memory they had created came to a conclusion in a single moment that ended their entire existence. TLDR, life is precious. There was a dead Iraqi guy on the ground halfway covered with a blanket after we shot him. I saw a pack of smokes in his shirt pocket and I remember reaching in there and taking them so I could hand them out to the guys. I even gave some to the other Iraqi prisoners we were watching at the time. It was one of the weird moments. Thinking about it. How strange would it be if your dead body was laying there and some guy came out and took your pack of smokes out of your shirt pocket? That morning. Like most mornings. You put your smokes in your jacket and go out to face the day. You die and then some guy from another country casually takes them from you as you rot in the sun. Weird. Using a throwaway because I've never told anyone before and I don't think I ever could. On a motorcade patrol in Afghanistan. Our point vehicle struck an IED. My best friend was thrown about 10 yards from the wreckage. And impaled through the chest with a piece of metal. His face was blown half off. I'll never forget it. I recognized half of his face. And the other half was charred bone. He died in my arms. About 2 years later. I finally got stateside. And went to see his family. They told me he wrote to them every day. And when the letters stopped coming, they knew he was gone. His 5-year-old daughter asked me how her daddy died. I didn't know what to say. I guess I never really tell anyone anything unless they were directly involved. I'll try to keep them short and sweet. My engineer unit was tasked with clearing a road that had been black status for 7 years. Midway in we get ambushed by a whole village on both sides. We nearly ran out of crew-served ammo that day. What really gets me about it is that just minutes before it all went down, a mother and her child ran to safety in a nearby building. And to my recollection there wasn't a single building we didn't hit with either Mark 19 or Polish strikers. We tore that village to pieces when it was over. It doesn't really bother me. But I do wonder how much more harm we did than good. On a lighter note. In basic training one of my battles was really chafing on his ass. He couldn't quite get the baby powder in his crack. He must have really trusted me because he asked me very discreetly and I obliged. So there I am. Shooting baby powder into another guy's ass. In the first Gulf War me and some guys were clearing bunkers. We went down into one and there were pin-ups of Madonna. It was weird. My great uncle was in Vietnam. The only thing he ever mentioned was seeing a tiger. The tiger was fleeing a forest that had been engulfed in flames. He said the tiger was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Posting this on a throwaway account. Long story short, killed an entire family during the Vietnam War without showing a single emotion. We were insensitive to even the most gut-churning things you could ever imagine. A father, mother, and 2 daughters. Our commander didn't give a shit if it had been nothing but school children in that house. Everyone had to die. They were accused of harboring weapons for the Viet Cong. If anyone is looking to read more of these, I suggest the book The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien. He basically has said if he didn't write those experiences down he probably would have killed himself. Dude shot a 12-14-year-old cause he opened fire on us. A bit late to the party. But what the hell? Why not? I was sitting in the driver's seat of my Bradley at a traffic control point outside of Baghdad in 2003. I was bored. Hot and hungry. Along comes this kid. He's about 12. In one hand he's got a toy robot and in the other a carton of cigarettes. He comes towards me yelling "Meester. Meester." Running low on cigarettes as I was. I dropped down inside my driver's hole to grab my wallet cause $5 for a carton of smokes is a great price. As I'm rooting around inside the Bradley, there's an earth-shattering boom and the Bradley rocked. I stick my head out, and when the dust cleared there was a pair of shoes with feet still in them. I cleared my head and climbed out to check for damage and found a huge blood splatter on the side of the vehicle. As I stood there, looking at the remains of a preteen suicide bomber, the only thought that went through my head was disappointment at the loss of those cigarettes. It's very interesting how much of your humanity is lost during times of war. An early morning salvo of 3 rockets blew a tent near my hut to bits while I was in Afghanistan. I ran over to the HESCO bunker in my sleep. After I had come to a little bit, I was checking what I had with me. This is the part that I've never really shared with anyone else. But I didn't notice for a minute. I only had on my combat shirt, Kevlar, and weapon, and then was completely nude from the waist down. And number 3232. And number 3232. I was porky pigging it while sh*t was blowing up around us. It's all I could think about. I felt really awkward about it. Even though I've seen and been seen naked by everyone there. I think I just really didn't want to be caught up in a fight without pants. It was racing through my mind. If there's a perimeter breach, I need to get to my Foot Locker first and get some pants on. I was rehearsing it in my mind. Haha. Luckily the laundry tent took the brunt of the attack. But that really put us back on clean clothes for a bit. My father now suffers from war-caused PTSD. But the most memorable thing he told me from war were the children who would beg for candy outside the base camp every day. Him and his friends would play with them over the few months he was there. One day he returned to the children slaughtered and decapitated outside the base. I'm not a soldier. But my father served 2 tours. He told me I'm the only person he ever told this to. He's a helicopter mechanic. Him and his company often did something the military calls Air Force checks. When they didn't completely understand the manual. It's when you go to one helicopter, see how it's set up, then compare it to another helicopter and see if everything matches up. One day the chopper him and his crew were in charge of, something malfunctioned. And they crashed. And they all died. He said it will always haunt him that he didn't double check the aircraft. That he didn't do something that could save those young men's lives. There was no enemy. No fire. No explosion. Something just malfunctioned and they crashed and died. He only ever brought it up once when we were taking a walk together. And has never spoken of it since. I don't blame him. The first time I heard the incoming alarm, day 1 of deployment into Iraq, I was in a Portashta. I'm a devout atheist, not sure if that's how you say it, but all I could say was no god. Not like this. Don't let it end with me taking a sh*t in a backwater country. Not with my pants down. I know it's not exciting, but I'm still not proud of it. I'll share a more funny thing that happened to me, I guess. On my first night watch in a very remote patrol base in Afghanistan, I go up to one of the towers to check the other soldier is actually manning it. Sit down with the fellow while I try and communicate a bit with him. Rookie mistake. He takes a bit of a liking to me, I guess. I sit down next to him to show him the thermal night scope I'm using. He starts patting my thigh, nodding and smiling at me. I recall all the man love Thursday things I got told by senior soldiers and quickly bailed down the ladder and avoided that tower for the rest of my watch. Lol. Afghanis love a bit of a padabam and I probably looked like a good little chai boy at the time as I was only about 22. Lol. Edit. Typos. Edit. Also I never told the other guys in the base cause I knew I'd get nicknamed chai boy or something, haha. Attention. Please keep in mind that the OP of this thread has chosen to mark this post with the serious replies only tag. Therefore any replies that are jokes, puns, off topic, or are otherwise non-contributory will be removed. If you see others posting comments that violate this tag, please report them to the mods. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot. Our auto moderator comments Q11 per what is auto moderator. And this action was performed automatically. Please Contact the moderators of this subreddit. Message compose to equals percent 2fr percent 2f ask Reddit if you have any questions or concerns. I saw one of my good friends who was going through an awful domestic issue to be divorced in Iraq strangle a cat just to cope with the issue. He was a nice family guy at one point and eventually returned to that. He ended up going to jail when he got back because he tried to pull the gun out of an officer's holster. I should have checked him into the psych ward days before that happened. Okay. Halfway through the thread and I can't now empathize with the fact so many soldiers having PTSD. Or worse yet, the multiple suicides. Just thanks guys for telling us uniformed public about some of this badge tea. I think these are the most patriotic MF ever. During phase 2 training I walked in on a mate wanking. He didn't stop. What he did do was ejaculate all over his own face. Of all the things I've seen, that sticks with me the most. Sometimes I wonder about the stories my maternal grandfather, who was drafted at age 17 into the Nazi army, must have. They sent him to Stalingrad. All I know is that they told him to take the rifle of the guy he was following should he die and that his shoes were too small, costing him 2 toes. He was imprisoned in a Siberian mine and says he only survived because elder prisoners fed him, saying at least the kids should be able to one day go home. When he did finally return after 5 years, his own mother didn't recognize him at the door for all the weight he had lost. My little brother once asked him if he had killed anyone. He cried at the dinner table. I haven't had the guts to ask him about the war. He's still alive. Aged 86 now and I love him dearly.